Hey, back. It's me, Ian, and in today's video, I'm doing something a bit different. Yes, I've been delving into my collection, and in my collections, I've found this. And I thought, hey, why not? Let's have a look at this. It's, it's one of my interests, music. And this is music scene from July 1973. Yes, I was just become a teenager. I was 13 years old, and this is my only surviving magazine of this era, which I found in my collection. I don't know how I managed to keep it because I lost so many things along the way. But this is the actual magazine that I bought at that age. I was a teenager, yes. And here it is. But looking at this magazine, it always fascinates me because it gives you a brilliant snapshot of 1973 music. I I was really into music in such a lot of ways. And I was reading then the weekly press of NME, Sounds, Melody Maker, and then there were on and off magazines which I'd progressed from as well. Like you had things like Disco 45, which were basically had all the hits and lyrics. And I was looking around. A lot of the magazines were actually, to be honest, were aimed at girls, if you want to put it like that. You had all the sort of pop star kind of stuff. Jackie was the major magazine for girls, but I was looking for something a bit more serious, and I came across this, which was looking at the whole of music, not just looking at pop music, but what was going on in music. And though this was mixing that populist approach, but it was also wider than that. When you discovered albums, then this was a really good companion to have, because you found out all about these groups that made albums and were not necessarily concentrated on singles. So it's a great look at that particular era and what was developing. And this magazine came out for the first time in November 1972. And it nearly did 2 years. It folded in October 1974. And looking back now, I wish I'd have still had some of the issues that I did. But I've got this, and it is actually a good example of how the kind of magazine that it was, and gives you, as I say, a snapshot. And being into all this sort of nostalgia and that, it's great. It's great to feel that this is the actual magazine that I bought at that age. It's wonderful. I love it. Anyhow, let me just go through it. So, if you look at the cover here, we've got July 1973, and we've got 15 pence. Hey, 15 pence. That's quite a bit. When you pocket money, as I remember this era, it hadn't gone up to £1. I think I was getting about 50 pence. You see how much, when you've got all these other expenses as a child, then it soon goes. If you could buy an album to buy, it would have cost me at least £2. So that was quite a bit of saving I would have to do to buy an album, which I had to do often. I would put so much fine. And then if I decided to buy any singles, singles were between, as I think, about 35 pence to 50 pence, that kind of amount. So basically all the pocket money would have disappeared on a single if I bought one. So I wouldn't be able to buy my other things, which were the NME, Sounds, or Melody Maker. You see, I needed more money. Hey, by heck. But I had to be good at saving and juggling around. And so, to buy this magazine, I had to, to be creative. I think, actually, my pocket money may well have started to go up. And it may well have got to £1. Now, if it was £1, that would have been in heaven, that would have been a lot of money, and I could have still done it. So I tend to think, but by then, my dad decided to give me £1, £1 a week, which is great, fantastic. Which he was really very generous giving that, because £1 then was quite a lot of money, and he wasn't on a massive wage, so that was good. Anyway, I'm going off again about times and nostalgia, but anyway, okay, let's just have a quick look at the reflection of what is going on in July 1973. We've got, now, there's been a poll, which is obviously best albums. We'll have a quick look at that. The readers think. Then we've got Pink Floyd here. We've got T-Rex. Alice. Now, Alice is obviously Alice Cooper. Faces. Traffic. Oh, and look. I mentioned her before. Lindsay DePaul. She's here. Cat Stevens. Roy Wood. Remember? Wizard. Roy Wood. And, of course, the one and only Bowie. Yes, Bowie, which I remembered featured a lot at the time. 1973, big era. Aladdin Same album. Fantastic. Bowie at the full height of his first phase. Well, is it the first phase? But this is early Bowie in relative terms of his career. And he's massive. He's become massive. And then, this is interesting, ELP on tour. Prog rock, yes! We've got prog rock, yeah? Here it is. And ELP were massive. They were getting into the, sort of crossing over a bit into the mainstream, yes? It's very interesting, because prog rock was perhaps at its height, and it hadn't gone too self-indulgent by then, and it was very creative, and ELP were one of those. But for me, it was always Genesis and Yes. But yeah, ELP, they were breaking into the mainstream. So let me just quickly go through. When I say quick, I have to forget, because me rambling on. Look, actually, you're on the back there. Look at that. David Bowie. His record company is congratulating him on being voted the world's top male singer. And look what's there on the advert, Aladdin Sane. Isn't that fantastic? Just pure nostalgia of looking at that. Right, so let's go through some of the things in the magazine that will give you an indication of what is, well, what's going on, if you say. He says, trying to open the magazine. Right, there we are. This is the first one. We've got contents, gives you contents. Then there's like sort of, I don't know, it's sort of bits of news, almost sort of gossipy kind of things, and about particular artists and that. Just sort of little bits and pieces. So we get that just on that first page. And then the first article is, now this is interesting, Slade. Now Slade were at their height here, 1973. Slade were big, yes. And they were trying to break America, which is often at this particular period in time what most bands were trying to do, and discovering that it wasn't necessarily easy. And Slade, it's interesting because Slade were at their height, and yet they were going, within a few years, they were no longer as popular, sadly. They were still going, but their career just took a nosedive. This was at their height. And then, here he is. This is absolutely a gem, this article. This is David Bowie on that famous last tour. They didn't know, obviously, that he was going to make the big announcement. You remember the big announcement? He was basically giving up doing live shows, and everybody was absolutely devastated. But look at this. Look at those pictures of Bowie. Isn't that fantastic? Absolutely wonderful. This is when he was on this tour. They didn't know. Nobody knew then. And it was such a major announcement. Look, there's Bowie again. Look at that. Bowie. Fantastic. There. And then we've got here Cat Stevens. Cat Stevens was quite a big artist at the time. Very popular. He again had that serious tradition with his albums. Some brilliant albums. And he was also going into the mainstream. Then, now, here we are. We've got like news here. Look at this. Lindisfarne alive again. In other words, as so often with these groups, they were splitting up and joining back together. Musicians were changing, as they often do. Then with ELPs is linked with a tour, going on tour. And look at this. The bassist. Bass player for Faces, who were Ronnie Lane had left to do his solo thing, and Tetsu was now on bass. Tetsu, he was a great bass player, and he played with Free, who were a fantastic band. They were Free, yeah. Tetsu, anyhow, he played for Faces, and then always stars in that era, the controversial Keith Moon. You've got about Moon there, for who he's very infamous, if you want to call it at the time. Very infamous. Then we've got articles about ELP. ELP promoting their tour, talking around. As you can see, they're obviously, trying to popularize themselves, and they were like trying to popularize prog rock. Then look at this. I mean, Alice Cooper, what an artist as well, and very controversial at the time. There's an article on Alice Cooper. I mean, they even tried to stop him coming into our country, doing live shows at one time. Such was the controversy about him. Look, here we are. This is Kenny Jones. He was the drummer of the Faces. Kenny Jones. Now, it's interesting because when Keith Moon died, he became the Who drummer. The Faces had split up by then. Rod Stewart had gone on to a big solo career. There we are. Let's have a look here. Now, here we are. This is the poll results. The readers' poll results. And here's it. We've got here now the world's best group were voted Slade, then Alice Cooper, because Alice Cooper were the group as well as the singer. Faces, T-Rex, Roxy Music, ELP, Led Zeppelin, Focus, Deep Purple, and Who. They were all the votes. But Slade had been voted number one. And now look at this. The world's best female singer. Interesting. Carly Simon. Yes, that classic album, of course. And the single You're So Vain had really propelled her. Maggie Bell. Now, who's heard of Maggie Bell? The Scottish wonderful singer she was. Oh, yeah. Olivia Newton-John. See? Olivia Newton-John, when she was doing her sort of almost country and western, middle of the road kind of music, very popular. Country Roads, you remember that song? She had a big hit with that. Look, Diana Ross. She's fallen a bit there, Diana Ross. And, look, most importantly for me, fifth, Lindsay DePaul. Yeah. But interesting that somebody like Joni Mitchell is not in this, who at the time would have been considered quite a big artist, and the singer-songwriters. And it carries on because I look here, then we've got Melanie at number 6, Roberta Flack, Carole King. It goes on like that. So these are the things. The world's best male singer was, of course, Bowie. David Bowie easily voted on the phone. Then we had Rod Stewart, Alice Cooper. See, there was still the mixture of the band or him as the lead singer identification. Elton John, and then Gilbert O'Sullivan. Now, he was big at the time, and then he sort of all disappeared. But again, he was still carrying on making music. Gilbert O'Sullivan, quite underrated, I think, now. When we look back on Gilbert O'Sullivan, we'll see that he was actually a very creative artist. And, yeah, it was interesting. Then, at number 6, we had Roger Daltrey, because he hadn't left The Who, but he was doing solo work. And then, and Robert Plant. Yeah, Robert Plant in Zeppelin. I mean, Led Zeppelin. They should be in that. They were in this World's Best Group, but only at number 7. Same with, I'm just looking, there's no Pink Floyd. That's interesting because Dark Side of the Moon was a massive album at the time, but Slade dominated the airwaves everywhere. And their album, Slade, was such a massive seller. It was a massive, massive album. And look, here we've got the top 30 singles of that time. Have a look. Sorry. This is a poster that's come out. That's why it's come out. This is T-Rex. Poster of T-Rex. Who, again, with Slade, were very big at the time. We got here single charts. And the number 1 single mentioned here is See My Baby Jive by Wizard. And then Tie a Yellow Ribbon. Tie a Yellow Ribbon. You remember all that? Dawn? They were there. Oh God, who remembers all these groups? Then we've got, what else have we got here? There's Roger Daltrey, Giving It All Away. What a single that was, I remember. We've got Hot Chocolate. Oh, wow. Now, Brother Louie, now that was quite a controversial single, Brother Louie, by Hot Chocolate. Who would have thought Hot Chocolate were doing controversial things? It was controversial because it was about racism in a very powerful way. And it was in the charts. And that was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, God, there's Gary Glitter here, who now we've sort of removed from history. Best not talk about him. Then we've got, I tell you, this is interesting. Again, Bowie, again, with Driving Saturday. What a single that was from Aladdin Sane. Paul McCartney and Wings, of course, doing My Love. Yeah, McCartney was on a big high, really, with Wings. once he got into it, he was producing a lot of singles, and their album Band on the Run, of course, was massive. Let's just have a quick look at the albums. I haven't gone through all of it gives you a flavour of what it is. The number one album here is David Bowie, Aladdin Sane. And then, now this is interesting, the two Beatle double albums, which were all their singles, which was effectively almost like the greatest hits, really. Two brilliant, the Red and the Blue albums, they were here and they were massive sellers. The Beatles' influence, don't forget, this is 1973. The Beatles broke up in 1970. So the popularity is still there of the Beatles. Hence, McCartney doing well. John Lennon beginning his solo career as well, doing well. This is all reflected in this. And there it is. I was looking for this. Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd. It was in there for years. It was the album, Dark Side of the Moon. That's why when Wish You Were Here came out, it was such a massively anticipated album. Led Zeppelin was perhaps with one of their lesser successful albums, was Houses of the Holy, because we'd had, certainly with Led Zeppelin 4, particularly a very critically acclaimed album. And the $1 Billion Babe is Alice Cooper at his height. What can you say? Brilliant. $1 Billion Baby's album. Anyhow, I don't want to go on too long, but that was just an idea of what we've got here. Then we've got, now this is interesting, this headline, The Dread Sound of Reggae. Now, reggae developed into sort of music mainstream consciousness really through the brilliant, legendary Bob Marley, but it was going on in other areas. And this Judge Dredd was almost all his singles got banned. No, he just said Judge Dredd because that's a character from the comic. But this bloke here, he wrote these songs and were banned by the BBC because they were all rather risque, naughty songs. But they were all in this reggae beat. There it is. Then look at that. Johnny Nash advert for one of his songs. Johnny Nash, he was well respected. A black American singer, fantastic. And then here, you see, this is what's great about this magazine. We go about the Temptations. The Temptations, now they were really pushing things in 1973. Papa Was a Rolling Stone was such a massive hit. And Papa Was a Rolling Stone. Wow. It was psychedelic. Soul and psychedelic. Yes. What a mix. I remember that song so well. I thought, what the hell is this? You know, I was learning, and it was, what a song. And that developed, again, you get a new stream into soul music, how that was beginning to branch off into other areas as well. Wow. What we say? Now, here, another group from, in a way, the late 60s, still going along, was Traffic. Their big hit in the 60s was Hole in My Shoe, and lots of other sort of music of that time. Great groups. Traffic were fantastic. Oh yeah, such an influence. Then what else have we got here? There's the advert from a record company about Slade. That was the massive album of theirs at their height, and therefore they are really at the height of their career. Then there's looking at some albums. Look, Donny Osmond, my God, he was the teen market, wasn't it? We've got let's see who else here. Some compilations here. Now, the various artist compilations, which were becoming popular at that time. They discovered that you could shove all these singles together and make money out of them. And because you can put them on an album and they were cheaper to make. And people wanted albums. There was a mass market. Three Dog Night, I remember them. Ray Charles, the legendary Ray Charles, there's a review there of one of his albums. Medicine Head, who remember? Look at that. That was part of that thing. Look at that hair. It was all the 70s hair. Medicine Head. Then we've got more reviews here. We've got Johnny Winter review. Brilliant. Real stuff. Nazareth. Oh, crikey. Then we got Paul McCartney and Wings. Red Rose Speedway. Wow. The Wailers. Now, take note. The Wailers. It's all 1973. They just... In fact, the more I think about it, the Wailers made their appearance, I think, on Old Grey Whistle Test. And Bob Marley was there. And of course, this was going to start to begin the process of projecting them into the mainstream. Paul Simon, of course, he was important. I mean, the breakup of Simon and Garfunkel and Paul Simon projected massive solo career. Liza Minnelli, she was very popular at the time. Cabaret, yeah, that's a great film. All that soundtrack. Andy Williams, my God, I remember all these. Status Quo, the best of. Now that was in their pie years, before they became at their particular sound, which we got with Pile Driver and all that albums. But this is the sort of more 60s kind of sound that they had, which is very different. But yeah, that's amazing stuff looking at this. So there's all these reviews anyhow. Oh, and there she is. Oh, look. Lindsay DePaul. There she is. An article about Lindsay DePaul. She did appear quite a bit in that because as a singer-songwriter, you know, she reflected this era very well and was breaking through. And I was still waiting for the first album. Yes, and we were going to get it. Yes, but here she is. And then there's Roy Wood, Wizard. They were big. Because Roy Wood had come from the late 60s with Move. They were a big late 60s sort of Birmingham band. Then there's look at this, these are live gigs. We've got your Canned Heat. They're very 60s, if you remember. Spencer Davis Group, wow. Pink Fairies, yeah, now they're psychedelic, they were. Bee Gees, yeah, the Bee Gees days of well before Saturday Night Fever and all that. There was been going for years. Bee Gees, yeah, they were into the 1960s. Look at this Steel Ice Band, and that bring back memories. Folk rock. There we are. David Bowie, of course, still with these live dates. Nobody knew what was going to happen. Cilla Black, yeah. Well, she was at the time, don't forget in the 60s, Cilla Black was a major artist and a great singer. Yeah, I know people may laugh with somebody we shouldn't mention, so we won't. Geordie, now their lead singer, Geordie, he went on to be the lead singer of AC/DC after the death of the lead singer there, Geordie. I remember Blackfoot Sue, one-hit wonders, but they were still going. Del Shannon, a throwback to the real early days. Wow. Look, Carly Simon. Can you see Carly Simon? Look, there are 3 albums there publicised. Look at that. Carly Simon. She's a great artist again, really. Then, we had to have it, Pink Floyd. There's always Pink Floyd going to pop up in this area. They were such a big band with Dark Side of the Moon, and their development to that from the sort of psychedelic area. Sid Barrett had left, and they were out now producing this brilliant music at the time. There is Asylum Live. They were very much a show band that produced these great shows and great music. And then we look back at... Oh, I love looking at these. Look at the adverts. Look at these adverts. Again, it's a snapshot of the time. You're thinking, cracky, look at the shoes. Look at these. Look at the brilliant shoes. And the loons, as they used to call them. Look at these drawings of all these, the fashion. Just look at them. The fashion. It's 70s. It's wonderful. And then there's like the badges. There's the posters of the groups. Obviously Slade are very much Rod Stewart featured. Bowie. Neil Diamond. Yeah, Neil Diamond. I forgot. His career was quite big then. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Elton John. The all usual people. And the posters were 60 pence each. Imagine a big poster, only 60 pence. Wow. Badges was 20 pence. Oh yeah, heavy denim jeans. I was just seeing, looking at that. Look at that. Heavy denim. Look how wide they are. The flares, massive. Oh yeah. And then you've got a letter pages from the reading. And it's going, Cliff married. Help. There it is. They're even speculating then. Yes. You can't beat it, can you? Right. I think that's it. Oh, I'll just go back. There we are again. I know I showed that earlier, but you've got, haven't you? David Bowie. So this magazine. I've just gone through it. It's been like a journey. Oh my, I've gone on so long for 32 minutes. I've just looked on there. I'm sorry. I better go now. I hope you've enjoyed this. And any comments, please, just comment about music. I know I'm passionate about music as much as I am about my films. And here we are. So, please, if you're interested and want more of this, just let me know. I won't do all this all the time. No, I'll stick to all of this. But I just wanted to do something different that I'm doing. And I am done. So, there we are. Please subscribe. Subscribe. And then I can let you know when I produce these videos of what I do. And then, please, if you like it, give it a like. Please, like it. It costs notes, as I always say. And all I've got to say is, I'll see thee, and I'll see thee again.